you could attend. It's my pleasure today to introduce our guest speaker, who likes to go by Dr. Glue. He was named the Office Whisperer by the New York Times, and that sounds like a pretty important post.
Hmm.
Um, he helps tech forward-looking leaders to stop overpaying for AI and help them boost the adoption and innovation that comes from AI adoption. He serves as the CEO of a future of work consultancy called Disaster Avoidance Experts. I think we can all use some of that.
Hmm.
Dr. Glib is a best selling author. He's written 7 books, and he has a new one coming out this year from Georgetown University Press. It will be called The Psychology of AI Adoption at Work. He's also published over 650 articles in publications like Harvard Business Review, Time, and Fortune. He gained his expertise through 20 years of consulting work with Fortune 500 companies like Aflac, Xerox, and he has spent over 15 years in the academic world at University of North Carolina and Ohio State. He's presently domiciled in Columbus, Ohio. He is a Ukrainian American, and in his free time, he spends lots of time with his wife and family so that his personal life does not turn into a disaster. There's supposed to be laughter, but everybody is obviously muted, so they're following instructions, which is good. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn the program over to Dr. Glib, and he's going to discuss AI adoption and how agentic platforms help with that. So, Dr. Glib, thanks very much for spending some time with us. We look forward to your presentation. And just an FYI, this is going to be recorded, and if you want a copy of the recording, please text me or email me your contact information.
All right. Thank you so much for the kind introduction, Art. Welcome, everyone. So let's talk about AI adoption. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is why I titled this Stop Overpaying for AI, how you can slash vendor costs while boosting engagement and innovation. And I want to start with a story. So I met with a company here in Columbus, Ohio, Go Bucks, that was about 11 months ago. And we were meeting for lunch and we're talking about their AI adoption process. And they're a thought leadership company. So they sell their IP. They sell their IP, they do kind of consulting, community gatherings, and so on, like that. That's kind of their shtick. And so you become a member, you sign into their website, you get access to their IP, and they have add-on services. Now, they already did some AI adoption stuff. So for example, on their website, they had a chatbot that was trained on their IP. It was a reasonable chatbot. And they had it in a dual system. One is if you just go to their website without signing in, it gives you no more than 5 answers to questions that they ask about IP, the IP of the company. If you sign into their website, it gives as many answers as you want. And so it's a pretty good model. Like I checked it out, it was pretty good. Then I asked them how much they were paying for it. Now, does anyone want to take a guess at it? You can unmute yourself or you can just type your answer into the chat. How much do you think that they were paying for this tool per year? So annual fee. So 20,000, 100,000, 30,000. Yeah, you're definitely on the right track. It was 50,000 per year. 50,000 per year. And so this was a tool that I later learned. There's New York City had a similar tool that was trained just under business law to help businesses, small businesses, and SMEs, small medium enterprises, kind of like you guys are running, to open up a business in New York and just answer questions about that. And the city was paying something like 500,000 per year for that. Now, that's when I heard that, I realized how egregious it was. I could have helped them build that tool for a one-time fee of $10,000. They should not have taken that much money. Vendors are greatly exploiting the lack of knowledge by small and medium enterprises about how much AI tools should cost and how well you can do using no-code, low-code agent building platforms, which is what I'll be talking about today. How you, your small business, your medium-sized business, SMEs, can use no-code, low-code platforms to not only greatly reduce the cost of any AI that you use, but also to boost engagement and innovation. Now, why do I talk about engagement and innovation? Well, your employees are generally pretty anxious about AI adoption. There was a recent Pew Research survey that showed that over 50% of people are more anxious than excited about AI, and something like 10% are more excited than anxious. And your employees likely fall, a lot of them, into that 50%. And so there's a lot of resistance to AI usage. And AI is something that you really need to adapt and customize to your needs in order to use it effectively. So this is why it's very important to use AI effectively, and in order to use AI effectively, you need to have your employees really engaged with it. And the benefit of using no-code, low-code tools is that they can not simply use these tools, but they can build these tools. It's no-code, low-code. It's kind of like using Excel or using Adobe or using PowerPoint. You can learn how to use these tools and use these tools well. You don't need to, this is not an IT matter. You don't need to rely on your IT to build these tools. These are tools that are just as simple, and I'll show that, to learn as Excel or PowerPoint or the Office Productivity Suite or Adobe. And that will help boost innovation. The people who know how to make, and by innovation, I don't mean a jargon corporate term. I mean something that increases your efficiency or effectiveness. By efficiency, I mean doing the same work with less resources. By effectiveness, I mean using the same resources to do better work. So those are the two dimensions in which you should be measuring any AI adoption, your efficiency or your effectiveness, or both. And so when your employees are really engaged with building these AI tools, that's when they will show efficiency and effectiveness improvements. Okay, so that's the overview of the topic that I'll be presenting. Now, at any time, if you have questions, you can just drop them into the chat. I'll answer them, and I'll stop occasionally for pauses for you to ask questions, where you can drop them into the chat, or you can unmute yourself. We have a small enough group that you can unmute yourself and ask a question. All right. So I promised Mandy that I'll start with a roofer example. So let's start with someone you don't really think of as a front of the pack AI adopter. A roofing company I worked with here in Columbus, Ohio, to help their staff members use no-code, low-code platforms, specifically ChatGPT, to build a sales assistant. Now, Mandy can confirm that roofers often miss sales opportunities due to insurance challenges. At least this one does, and I presume many others do. So what typically happens? So we just had some pretty big windstorms come through, and a lot of people are filing insurance claims because they have issues that happen to the roof. They have a bunch of shingles blown off or something like that. And when you have damage to the roof, what happens? You call a roofer, call several roofers. They come in, they give you a quote. First of all, they go to the roof, or they send a drone there. They take some photos, they give you a quote, and then they leave you to deal with the insurance claim. And so it's your responsibility to go through the insurance claim process and get coverage. And of course, most people are not experts at dealing with insurance companies. And so they either get, insurance companies are looking for reasons to deny claims. And so they either get their claim denied, which is one scenario, or they get a much lower claim approved than they could have. So instead of replacing the whole roof or a slope of the roof, they get only 10 shingles replaced. And that's the difference between a $2,000 job and a $20,000 job for a roofer. So roofers often miss opportunities because the homeowners don't know how to effectively work with insurance companies. And so this is a tool that helps insurance companies guide their prospects, the homeowners, into how they can effectively deal with insurance companies and get hopefully coverage for the whole roof. So this is the aim of this tool. So it improves both the likelihood and the size of sales. Okay, let's see how it works. So you'll see that this is a ChatGPT interface. Anyone who's used ChatGPT will be familiar with this interface. And here is what happens. The roofer comes, they get called, they come, they go to the top of the house, and they take some pictures, or they send a drone to take some pictures. So that's the first thing that you see entered here, the 5 photos. Next, they get the insurance information from the homeowner about to figure out, okay, what kind of insurance policy do they have? What's it like? And then they indicate what they want to achieve. So here is roofer talk. 2-layer trigger code generates strategy. The inspection shows 2 layers of shingles. I need a claim plan that leads in collateral hail indicators, and so on. So basically saying what they want. Now, a roofer is not an expert in dealing with insurance. That's not their expertise. Their expertise is roofing. So here is they're describing what they want to achieve. What does the AI tool do in response? So this is the response of the AI tool. It first understands that it's dealing with progressive insurance, and it talks about the wind hail deductible, the limited loss settlement, the cosmetic damage exclusion. So stuff that people need to know. Of just kind of the ordinance and law. We need the full tear-off and accessory limits, the ordinance and law coverage, the cosmetic damage exclusion. We must prove direct physical loss beyond appearance or rely on code triggers. An important point here is this one, that Ohio claims law requires reasonably comparable appearance when repair won't match appearance. So that gives us the legal footing to expand from the 10 shingles to the slope of the roof, the whole slope of the roof, or the whole roof itself. So that's the overview of what the tool understands and what the tool will do. And this is all happening while the roofer is in their van, they're using their tablet to do this. So they went to the top of the roof or sent a drone, they got the insurance policy, then they're formulating these talking points to the homeowner and helping guide the homeowner through the process. The next part is what they will actually say to the homeowner. Kitchen table talking points. So we're filing for direct physical loss, tying every photo that language, because policy pays for direct physical loss, not cosmetic labels. Because your roof has 2 layers, a high residential code requires a full tear-off before any new roof work, which is great news for the roofer, obviously. Talks about proving mismatch using collateral hits, running a brittleness test, enforcing statutory timelines. So these are things that would help the homeowner feel comfortable that the roofer knows what they're talking about, and they will actually do the work necessary to help them get their insurance claim correctly settled. Then claim timeline. So talking about submitting first notice of loss and why the insurance carrier cares about this, all the days, all the timelines, and so on. Then it talks through the anticipated adjuster objections and rebuttals so that the roofer can show the homeowner that, hey, here's what's going to happen. The claims folks, they will absolutely try to get away with not paying you. and here's what they'll say, and here's how we'll handle each objection. We'll repair a few shingles. The evidence to prepare is side-by-side photo with available free tab. The slope-wide shots show weathering, discontinued conformation of shingles if applicable. The shingles are discontinued basically. And so the high-low code shows that you need to replace as much to result in a reasonably comparable appearance. So the patch, the 10 shingles, won't reasonably compare. The appearance extends the scope to the slope of the roof or the whole roof. And so on. No code coverage, percentage schedule uses payout, we need more time, and so on. Then you prepare documentation checklist for this file, everything that will be needed to document that you went through the whole process for the insurance. Then you go through the exact talking points for when the claims adjuster comes on site and does their own inspection of the roof. So talking about, again, this is all talking to the homeowner at the kitchen table to show the homeowner that the insurer will hold, that the roofer will hold their hand while they're dealing with the insurance. So exact talking points for the adjuster on site, and of course they'll use this for the adjuster talking points on site. Brittleness demonstration and so on. Claim timeline actions will execute. So talking about the claim timeline, escalation paths if denied or short paid, photo capture plan tailored to your images, how this ties to direct physical loss. And then we can start with other things like drafting the proof of loss cover letter, our on-site inspection script, and it's starting to draft that. But I don't think I need to show you this. I think you get the idea. So that is the functionality of this tool. Now think about this tool adapted to your own sales process. If you are not selling $100 widgets, if you're selling something a little bit more complex, roofing or so on, something that requires customization to each customer, you can use this tool to do any sort of customization of your sales process to each customer. Imagine your best salesperson spread to all of your salespeople. It's kind of like a mentor behind the shoulder, a really good mentor behind each of your salespeople. So how much more likely would you be to convert each opportunity? And how much more money would you get? So this roofer company found that after 6 months of using this tool, they converted about 30% more opportunities for 25% more margin, for a 25% higher price. So this was great for them. And think about how this would apply to you. So write down some ideas, at least 3 ideas, where you can apply a tool like this to your organization, where you customize the sales process based on this information that you get from the customer and so on to the needs of the customer. And I'll give you 30 seconds to write that down, and then we'll move on to questions. And after questions about this tool, I'll show you how it works in the backend. All right, folks. So questions about this tool. You can drop your questions into the chat, or you can unmute yourself. And I bet Mandy will have some questions, but other folks, you're welcome to ask questions as well, of course.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead, Mandy.
So our company is a little bit different than most roofers because our owner, he has 30 years of insurance adjusting experience. That's what he did before he started our company.
Wonderful.
And so we have great success with insurance companies and working with adjusters. So my question is, could we use this type of tool for our salespeople to be kind of like a role playing type thing where to help them, I guess, with like customer objections? That would be something I think that, because I know this is helping with insurance objections. So can you train it to be like customer objections?
Absolutely. This is the underlying principle is the sales training tool. So this helps with any kind of sales customization, sales training, and yes, you can help them. But think about your own sales process, how you would be if you have the expertise of your CEO behind the shoulder of every roofer. If you build a tool like this, how much more business do you think you can get?
Yes. I
So,
can see the benefit of it for sure.
so I think you could still benefit from it, even though not as much as other roofers. Now, thinking about other roofers, how much better are you at getting more sales and higher prices from sales because of your insurance experience?
Oh, I think it makes us 50% better at least.
There
We've
you
had
go.
lots of customers come to us because they had worked with a different roofer and they could not get their roof
Hmm.
approved, and we were
Hmm.
able to overturn it. So
Exactly.
yes,
Yep.
if the roofer had this tool, then they could
Hmm.
probably make that happen without the customer having to go to somewhere else.
Yep, exactly. So this is the benefit that folks are getting. I'm glad you already have like your CEO, but this is a tool that can, if we can get the knowledge of your CEO into here, which we can, then that would help even further and
Awesome.
other sales training. Thank you, Mandy. Other folks. Yeah, unmute yourself or drop your questions into the chat. Okay, let me show you how this tool works. So, how does this tool work? So thinking about your business, how would you make it work? So this is the back end of the tool, and it relies on a combination of a knowledge base and instructions. Let me show you the knowledge base first. So the first tool within the knowledge base is a lengthy guide about the legal requirements to win the roof replacement battle here in Ohio. So specifically Ohio law. So that's going to be something like 9,400 words. And so this is going to talk about all the difference between the battle. The playbook is designed to transform roofing contractor from a skilled tradesperson into a formidable insurance strategist. And so here it talks about the legal framework. So this is basically the legal framework for how you would win the insurance battle with the insurer. So that's one part of the knowledge base. Let's take a look at the other part. The other part is going to be particular to each large insurance company. So we have something like 8 large insurance companies here in Ohio that do roofing. And this one is specifically for Progressive. So it analyzes the Progressive process, and this is about 9,600 words. It analyzes the Progressive claims process and helps you figure out how to most effectively not simply work with the law, which is the previous one, but with Progressive insurance. How Progressive insurance works because different insurers work in different ways. So this specifically helps with Progressive insurance, customized to that. So we just build a separate tool for each large insurance company, and then we also have for all the small insurance companies a generic tool. So this is the knowledge base. Then the other part is the instructions. So here, take a look at the instructions. The instructions tell the AI tool how it should act. So you're a Progressive Ohio roof claim strategist. Your goal is to interpret the user uploaded Progressive homeowner policy into research reports. So you saw the Progressive homeowner policy text when I originally uploaded it, and the 2 research reports here. And then create a strategy so users understand why each step matters. So knowledge and citation rules, required user input, policy excerpt, output. So you remember the output: plain English coverage snapshot, kitchen table talking points, step-by-step claim timeline with the chart that we would need, anticipated adjuster objections and rebuttals, documentation checklist, escalation paths if denied or short paid, disclaimer, whatever. Here's a style, plain English, contractor friendly. Keep why explanations concise, maximum 2,000 tokens, interaction guardrails, and that's the end. So I'm showing you this because it's not complex. This is not rocket science. So if you think of building a tool for yourself, for your team, this is not rocket science. This is not like complex IT. This is not programming. So all of this stuff is what's called natural language programming. You put in natural language instructions and a natural language knowledge base into the AI tool, into the AI agent, and then it's able to output what I just showed you. In GPT, it's going to be called, in ChatGPT, if you use that, it's going to be called GPTs. So I'll show you that. They're going to be a tab screen over here. So you should be able to see in the middle on the left. I'm just tabbing it with a bunch of them. What you do is you click on Explore GPTs. And then you click on My GPTs. And here is going to be the Create a GPT button, which is your crucial thing. And here you'll have the Create or Configure. You do not want the Create button. You want the Configure button. And so here is all the things that you'll want. Give it the name, description, instructions, the knowledge files, all capabilities that you want to give it. This is where everything lives. So this is not a complex thing to do. Like I said, it's not more complex than doing Excel or doing Adobe or doing PowerPoint well or using word processing well. So again, you can learn this. This is not like an IT matter. Everyone can learn it. And so here, for example, going back to the roofer example, what we did was I talked to the roofer, we agreed on the tool, I got some information from them about what they wanted to do, and then I ran 2 research reports using AI to do this research. So all of this research was done by AI, both of those reports. Then they gave the AI generated report, the one on the legal code they gave to a lawyer, the one on the progressive claim strategy they gave to a claims adjuster. And they went through it and they corrected a few things. It wasn't anything major, maybe like, yeah, just like a few things to update them and make it clearer. So the AI got it like 98% accurate. And so then we uploaded them into the backend. And then I developed the instructions, so the skeleton version of the instructions. And then I gave it to the roofer to improve it and perfect it, because I'm not a roofer and I'm not an insurance adjuster. I don't know really what they need and how they would benefit most from it. So it took me about something like 20-ish hours to build the initial skeleton version of the tool. And then it took them about 2 weeks. I don't know how many people hours. I think they had like two people working out in the office for several hours a week. And then they perfected the instructions to have the outcome that's desired. And then they sent it into the field for trials. And it worked quite well already, but they improved it over the first month to get it to the final instructions that you see here to really perfect it for the needs of the roofers. So that was the whole construction process. And as you could hear from Mandy, how much it can potentially improve your bottom line for this company to improve their bottom line, not quite as much like us, not the 50% that Mandy's company is doing better because they have that expertise, but it improved their sales by 30% over 6 months and the size of each sale by 25%, because obviously they can bid higher than other roofers because they can hold your hand through this process. So questions about the construction of this tool and how it functions and how it could be built.
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you explain again, how did you get that information from the knowledge base? You said you used AI to find that.
That's
So
right.
what's that step?
Sure. So go to any AI tool, so let's say Claude, and you click on research. And so it's going to be researching at this stage. And then you ask it to do a research report, on claims process for roof replacement for Progressive Insurance in Ohio, focusing on how roofers most effectively win the roof replacement battle, and by helping clients apply when the insurance claim expenses. So that's all. So you type that in, then it will take about 20 to 30 minutes to come up with a research report of this, like the 9,000, 10,000 words. And then you want to, of course, probably in your case, you'd want the CEO to look at it because he's an expert in that. But here, the insurance company that we work with, they just hired a claims adjuster, paid for several hours of their time to go through it and perfect it. And of course, you do the same thing for the Ohio legal code, and you'd hire a lawyer to go through it. And so this is the process. Nothing complex about it. You just need to know how to do this and how to prompt the AI tool. Like this is what's called prompt engineering. How do you write good prompts to get the AI tool to give you the outcome that you want? And so there are two types of prompts. One is the user prompt. That's what I'm entering in the window. One is the system prompt. That's for instructions in the back end over here. So that's called the system prompt. And so you need to learn how to do this and, of course, give it the correct knowledge base. So James, yeah, estimate process. Great. So I was just literally yesterday, I was meeting with an insurance company that were talking about their estimation process and how they can automate their estimation process. And so obviously it depends. I don't know what your company is, but please put that in to let me know what your company is. But I'll tell you about what we did with the insurance company and what we did. Okay, commercial flooring. Great. This will be quite relevant for you. So we figured out that one element of their estimation process, they talked through what their estimation process looks like. They said, well, we send somebody who's a claims adjuster, so I don't only work against insurance companies, I also happy to work with them. So neutral as consultant. So they send their claims adjuster to walk through the house and look at all the damage, and then the claims adjuster comes back to the office, they write up their notes, they put their notes into the system, and then they write up what the estimated damage is and what it will require to fix it. And then they look at other comparable cases, like all of that sort of stuff. Now, what we did, or what we decided to do, and this is very easy to adopt, I've done this with other insurance companies, is when the person who is the claims adjuster does the walkthrough, they simply record everything that they're saying into a phone, and they describe very carefully what they're seeing, like what is actually going on. Here's the fire in the kitchen. It burned half the wall. Here's the wall size. Here's the kind of repair that will be needed. We'll need drywall, we'll need sanding, and so on. So they get all the information while they're doing the walkthrough instead of typing it into the notes later. And so they're not spending any more time than they would otherwise because they're doing the walkthrough anyway. And they're taking notes anyway. This time they're not taking any notes. while they're going through the house, they're simply talking through what they're seeing in a detailed way. And so they're getting a transcript of everything. And that transcript, then they send it to the AI tool while they're driving back to the office. The AI tool not only creates a report based on it, but it's trained on what it means that it needs sanding, what it means that you need these like planks, whatever all the repair costs will be. And that's part of their knowledge base. And so the AI tool comes up with a report and an initial estimate based on the walkthrough report. Does that help, James? Do you have any other questions? Is that pretty clear how the tool would work?
So it sounds like as long as you have all the correct information in that knowledge base, you can prompt it or give it the information from like your inspection. Like say if we were going to use it for a roof estimate, we would have our salesperson record all their findings from their inspection and we could send it to the tool, and based off the knowledge base it would produce an estimate
Based off the knowledge base and the instructions.
and the instructions.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. Excellent. Thank you, Mandy and James. You'd like to see how this would work. I can actually show you a recent example. So what are we seeing here? We're seeing another AI tool, which is basically a version of what I talked about, not an estimator, but it's a meeting transcriber, next steps, and drafter. So what this tool does is after you have any meeting that you care about, that you want to record, so you record the meeting, like we're recording this presentation, but you record any video conference meeting, you can record your phone call, easy enough to do on a phone call. You can record your in-person meetings. So record the meeting so that there's a transcript. That's the key thing. And so this was my meeting with the insurance company that I mentioned earlier. This is the transcript of that meeting. So speaker, search it is, like all of these speakers. You can see it's just using the phone's recorder tool, nothing complex. So this is the transcript. Then the AI tool uses this transcript. So you can see pretty lengthy transcript. I think this was like a hour-long meeting. Okay, yes. So then what it does is it gets the meeting summary is the first step. So the meeting focused on identifying high-impact areas for integrating AI into the company's daily operations. Talked about technical infrastructure, department use cases, regulatory compliance, training, logistics. So efficiency, the technical infrastructure and integrations, we talked about these issues, departmental use cases, so it was able to talk about each departmental use case, accounting, IT, then financial considerations and budget, the concerns, objections, and resolved questions, so it's able to get that. Emotional signals and shifts. It's something that people often underestimate during the meeting process, sales process. How do you actually overcome, Mandy was asking how to train staff to overcome homeowner objections. You really want to be able to read these emotional signals and shifts. So we're talking about all the examples, lead stakeholder, frustration. And we talked about decisions and consensus, tool prioritization, and so on. Action items and risk assessments, which can be set up to automatically email to various stakeholders with owners and so on. Commitments, key takeaways, next steps, and then it creates, and that's the meeting summary. Then creates a follow-up email draft. So AI implementation gives 5 topics, subject line options, and then it gives a nice email draft. Great seeing you again, learning more about your upcoming trip, and so on. Discussion highlighted several key areas ripe for automation. Here's what we'll do. Here's what I'll specifically deliver. The workshop for $10,000 plus travel for an in-person engagement. Virtual option is $5,000. We'll do this workshop into distinct parts. During the first section, I distribute a pre-workshop survey to customize it to your needs. And then the second half is each person works on their specific priorities to build the foundational tools themselves. So like the tools that we talked about. We discuss the two distinct categories of tools. If you could build a tool yourself, great. If not, complex tools, I'll build the prototypes and skeletons, train your champions to maintain them. My standard hourly fee, so it knows all that. They can invest sweat equity into building the complex tools yourselves after the workshop, which would take them longer, but they can definitely do it. And so it gives immediate return on investment, generating what we talked about in the meeting, 8 to 12 hours of weekly time savings per employee, which is quite realistic. And here, guaranteeing success and nice ending. So here, going back to the question that was asked, like if you imagine this applied to your estimation process, where you have a transcript, it's dropped in there, it's just going to be trained on different things. It's going to be trained on knowledge base, and it's going to be trained on and the instructions will also be different than this one. But here is what this one looks like. Questions about this one? No questions from James. Other folks, any other questions? File types that won't work in the knowledge base. It depends on which tool you're using. So ChatGPT doesn't play well with Excel spreadsheets. If you are going to be using Excel spreadsheets, I strongly recommend going with either Gemini or Claude. And Claude Anthropic, currently the best system available is Claude Anthropic. So I was showing you this one. So this roof claim strategist, this is the best system currently. So this is, if you're thinking about like getting a system for yourself, that would be the smartest and the one that's most capable of working with the most types of files, I would recommend this system. If you don't necessarily need to switch from ChatGPT or Gemini, but if you are thinking about which tool to use, I would recommend going with Claude Anthropic. Now, if you are a Microsoft shop, fully Microsoft, you can go with Copilot. It's going to be a little bit more expensive and than these other tools. So Claude, I think the business version is something like $20 per seat with a minimum of 5 seats. OpenAI, ChatGPT, that's going to be $25 per seat with a minimum of 2 seats. Then Google Enterprise, I think, is going to be something like $21 per seat with, I forget what the minimum is, maybe 2 seats or 5 seats, something like that. So Claude is also going to be the most cost-effective version if you need at least 5 seats. If you don't need 5 seats, then ChatGPT and Gemini are going to be more cost-effective for you. But I would recommend, again, the smartest model is Claude Anthropic right now. Other folks, other questions about these tools, or it's fine if you want to ask other sorts of questions. Go ahead. Okay. Let me show you. I think I'll show another type of tool. All right. So let's take a look at this tool. What does this tool do? So thinking about your marketing process. If you want to reach out to folks who are either on your contact list or if you want to do cold outreach, email marketing, or LinkedIn automation. This is a perfect tool for that. So what does this tool do? This is a tool that I'm showing you my own internal tool because this is public data. I wouldn't show you the internal tool of a company I work with, obviously. So this is information that's available on the website of the various organizations that want public speakers. So I do public speaking, obviously, and organizations like associations and various institutions, they want people to come in and give talks for them. So they list people on their website who are going to be doing public speaking. So who they want to do public speaking. Great. And so this tool first scrapes these websites. So this is the website of the Ohio House Finance Agency, and this is the person that they indicate to contact for if you want to speak for them. Alma Fesh, their email, their affiliation, their LinkedIn, their city, their website. Okay, so that's the first step. So the first step is it gets the information from a website. Next, the big payoff. Here's where the intelligence comes in. Because that's automation. That's not like any sort of complex AI tool. The AI tool researches each person using all the information from the website. And then it creates a 5-email subject pitch, 5-email sequence pitch, and the LinkedIn automation pitch. So here is what it looks like. For example, LinkedIn, which you can put into a LinkedIn automation tool that just automatically sends LinkedIn profiles. Hi, Alma. Given Ohio's focus on affordable housing access, let's show members how to stop renting generic AI and start owning cost-effective staff build solutions. So clearly it's showing that you did research on them. That it's not just a generic LinkedIn request that you get like tons per day. This is actually customized to who they are. They do affordable housing access. Then email subject line. Ohio House Financing Agency AI for home buyer assistance programs. So again, customized to each individual company with an icebreaker sentence there saying your upcoming July 2025 down payment assistance changes present the perfect opportunity to equip Ohio House Finance Agency staff with custom AI tools. Great. So very specific, very relevant to what they're doing now. Then the next email subject line. So LA HTC program optimization with AI. I have no idea what their LA HTC program is, but the AI does, and here's their subject line. And so then it talks about Ohio Finance build a strategy session, and so on. And Northwest Housing Innovation with AI. As the Northwest Ohio organizations face increasing demands for affordable housing solutions, this AI presentation offers a strategic roadmap to scale home buyer assistance programs effectively. So obviously quite topical. And then it sends this email. So I'll show you how this looks like. So we saw this already. LA HTC program optimization with AI. And here is what it looks like. Given your focus on managing 4% LHTC applications and bond gap financing programs, I have no idea what that is. But it says, I want to ensure the House Finances Agency doesn't miss the chance to equip members with AI systems that automate complex automation reviews. So you could see and understand, like once I built this tool, like companies for whom I built this tool and that actually start using it, see much higher opening rates, like 100, 200% higher than they previously saw for their emails and responses and for their LinkedIn acceptances. Because the previous rate would be something like 1 to 2%, and it jumps to like 5 to 7%, which is a wonderful increase for not that much investment. So that's an example of how this tool works. Any questions about, so this is an example of this tool. Before I show you how it works, any questions about this tool? You can unmute yourself or you can just ask in the chat. Okay, in the meantime, I see James had a question. So here would be the voice mode. So using voice, so I'm going to go to ChatGPT. The voice mode is here. And then otherwise, it's going to be everything that we talked about. So James asked how can we train each of the widget for the design of this workflow for the estimation? So go to GPTs, explore GPTs, go to My GPTs, and here you go to create a GPT. So create a GPT, and then you put in all the information. So the crucial thing is the right knowledge base and the right instructions. And then you just use voice mode to enter the information that you want. You're welcome. Deleting these that I just created so they don't pollute my stuff. All right, so let's take a look at how this tool was built. The more complex tool, the web scraper. So the first thing is it scrapes the web and drops it into, so this is called NA10. This is a more complex tool than just a simple ChatGPT interface. So the first thing it does is it scrapes the web and drops it into a Google spreadsheet. You can see here, this is a visual builder. You just connect various nodes together. NA10 is a computer program designed to help you facilitate the connecting various programs together and helping them communicate to each other. So it's connecting what's called an API, application programming interface, to each other. And so having information from one computer program go to another computer program, go to another computer program, and so on, just connecting all of them together. So the first thing is it drops information into a Google spreadsheet from the research. Then it goes into a research tool. And so here you could see all the information, their person's city, their affiliation, their name, their LinkedIn profile, and the words mission, strategic plan, news update 2025, 2026. And it creates a 200-word snippet. Then it sends that snippet into a Claude Anthropic tool. So Claude Anthropic, the same idea as before. And this is the system prompt, the instructions for the backend. You're a strategic communication expert. Your job is to write a 5 email outreach sequence and 1 LinkedIn pitch. And using all that information, the Brave Research tool. Brave Research, by the way, is you can use Google Research, you can use Bing Research. Brave Research is a little bit cheaper, and I'm cheap. Then it says what you don't want. Forbidden phrases, radio silence, you must be busy, just checking in, and instead dive straight into a specific observation from the research. Always cite the research. Everything must reference a specific detail from the input, and so on. So talking all about how each of the email sequences and the LinkedIn automation sequence should be written. And finally, it uploads all this information back into the spreadsheet. And then from the spreadsheet, it goes to your CRM, which you should have in your CRM. Depending on your CRM, you could do a mail merge directly from the spreadsheet if you want, or directly put it into a LinkedIn pitch automation sequence, Or if you have a CRM, then you can put that information into a CRM. And so that's the other tool. This is how this tool works on the back end. Questions about this tool? Don't see any questions? Fair enough. Let's talk about the broader principle here. Great. So this is a small SME I worked with called Kratos Industries. And this is the attitude with which you want to approach any work on AI development. So what I did for them was I did a workshop and they built their first tool. And then the rest of the tools they were able to build themselves because they understood how to build these tools. They understood the process of system prompting, how to do the knowledge base, how to connect the various things together in the NA10 so that their computer programs talk to each other. And so I checked in with them about 2 months after I built the workshop and built the first tool, asked them how it's going, and they said, "Hey, Dr. Gleb, things are going pretty well so far. We've been able to make some progress and are feeling like we can mostly fly on our own. Thanks for getting us there." That's great. I worked myself out of a job and I'm very happy for that. So this is the attitude with which you want to approach any AI development acceleration. So if you want to hire someone to help you with AI tool development, this is the kind of attitude. Like try to get capacity transfer, which is just transfer to your staff on how to build these tools, because these tools are not rocket science. I showed you it's definitely very doable for anyone and everyone of your staff who are not actively resistant to AI adoption to learn how to use them. If they can learn how to use Excel, if they can learn how to use word processing competently, if they can use Adobe Photoshop or PowerPoint, well, they can learn how to use these tools. You can learn how to use these tools and you can build these tools. So that's the attitude that you want to have. Questions about that? Okay, so Ray Byrne asks about using chat for the last couple of weeks. Yeah, so you're not approaching it correctly. I'm sorry to tell you that. You're eventually going to run out of space and context in that chat that you're using. You should not be using individual chats for this topic. You should be using the process I showed you, going to create individual GPTs, using it to help you write estimates, giving it the instructions, and giving it the information in the backend. Just by trying to teach it, you'll eventually overwhelm the chat window and it will be producing polluted data. So it's not a good long-term solution. I would not recommend going this way. I'm sorry to tell you that, but it's, I'd rather be honest than give you false hope. You're welcome. So you only lost a couple of weeks, or however much time you invested during those couple of weeks. All right, folks. So I'll be happy to after the presentation to give you a free coaching meeting. The best approach is to pick a topic based on today's program that you want to address, like a problem area you want to improve, a technique you want to integrate, so it's going to be up to 60 minutes to actually help you integrate and adapt these tools to your needs. I'll send you some free digital resources by email, copy of my book, ChatGPT for Leaders and Content Creators, and a PowerPoint, and additional IPs we developed. I'm glad to take any final questions that you might have. You're welcome, Greg. Give you 5 more seconds to chat or unmute yourself, whatever works for you. Glad to hear from. Glad it's helpful.
So, Dr. Glib, I'm going to drop my email into the chat, and I'll be happy to coordinate getting copies of the recording to our participants.
Great. You're welcome, Andy. All right, everyone. So yes, please drop it into the chat. And I hope everyone has a great day and good luck with whatever you're doing the rest of the day. You're welcome, Olivia. Glad it was helpful.
Well, I would like to thank you for spending this time with us and giving us a couple of very concrete demonstrations of how we can use some tools to get better and save money.
I'm glad to hear it. And thank you very much, Art. Rayburn, I think I should be able to have your email from this talk, and I'll send you an email with information about how to set up that coaching session. Look forward to it, and look forward to any other coaching sessions that you folks want to set up. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye,
Yes,
everyone.
you can coordinate through me if nothing else.
Excellent. Sounds good, Art.